let's talk about the origin of holistic medicine. It's also called holism, and it's been around for centuries, but everyone thinks it's a new concept recently developed. It goes back to the old Ayurvedic medicine of 5000 BC from India, and Chinese medicine followed that Ayurvedic medicine. And the Europeans started to pick it up. And the Native Americans started to pick up different, through culture, to superstition, to testimonies. And that was deemed spiritual. In America, the traditional medicine started to form. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, lived 4th centuries BC, stressed the healing power of nature. You said we should support total body versus now they try intervention, stop the disease. So when germ theory came out by Pasteur, he started to see that there was bacteria. All the medical profession started to jump on it and say, let's fix the problem by destroying the pathogens. And they will also affect the balance of the body. Instead of support, they did intervention to fix the problem. Then what happens is that affected, that's why you call side effects, that affected some other organs that didn't behave properly or wasn't compatible to a particular drug. The first National Conference of Holistic Health was conducted in California in 1975. And shortly after, the American Holistic Health Association and the Holistic Medical Association formed thereafter. Today, most different disciplines like Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, the Greek type of medicine which traditional medicine usually follows, they follow what we call in Hippocrates' days humor or tendencies. So they set up different kinds of tendencies, like the Chinese had the 5-element law, and which has earth, wind, fire, metal, and water, and anything that corresponded to those particular type of tendencies would be fit into that category and treated as such through a acupuncture point or a different Chinese herb. And there was no different from the Ayurvedic medicine, where they classified as a Veda, Pitta, Kapha, and Ayurvedic medicine in India, and anything to correspond to that, they will match an herb or a technique that will actually enhance the energy in the body. They call it in Hippocrates' days humor or tendencies, where you look at the blood, black bile, the phlegm, or the yellow bile. And that was in Hippocrates' days, which is followed through today. But they call it different terminology because modern medicine is the phase of following biomedicine. It looks into the anatomy, physiology, neurology, psychology. And that they have to match in that particular area, and they would treat that separately. And then in conjunction to that, they would refer to another specialist who will only treat a particular area. Like the universe, to compromise or complex integrated systems interacting and supporting each other, there's various different types of vibrational levels. We are living today, continually receiving and transmitting information. A change in any part of the system means a change in all other parts. It's just like a machine. If you change one part, it affects the other. And that consists of the emotions, spiritual level, and the mental level, as well as the physical level. And each fragment, if it's treated separately, will affect the total whole body. Hippocratic schools soon recognized that the fundamental difference among the 4 different tendencies of humor included a time delay. For every different tendencies, you had a time delay response from the body, giving a certain stimulus. And that is the same thing described in allopathic response today. So each one of the tendencies that I mentioned had a different time where the body would take it in and be able to process it and over a period of time. So some of the tendencies, like the Chinese medicine or even the Ayurvedic medicine, all these different categories, if you had a tendency that compared with that, it would take certain different categories will heal faster than others. Or for that matter, you might have a continuing treatment on that. So everybody's different because your holistic approaches everybody individually, not collectively, as in statistics. You can't tell if the person was born in the Midwest and he had the culture from his grandparents and on to eat a certain way, lifestyle, as compared to somebody who lived by the ocean, had different seafoods and seaweed and everything. They would have a different culture background on how to eat. And then they would have something genetic. So how you can treat a Oriental person ethnically the same way as a European or American. Okay, you say it would be the same. Yes, some of the characteristics might be the same, but there are different aspects to the body that you have to address and take in consideration. So if you treat everybody the same and put them in a category of percentages, then there's no guarantee that that person will respond with the same remedy or drug as someone else who had been successful in taking it. So that's why you have percentages. So everybody quotes the percentages of, say, maybe 50% got well or 60%. But what about the other 40% that didn't get well? What about them? So if you treat everybody individually and look at all aspects of the body, mind, body, and spirit, then you can address all these different stressors that affect the immune system. And then once you balance it out, let the body take care of it and support it. And they eventually will heal. And here you'll see what we call transformation into holistic wellness. And I'll separate the Eastern and the Western because we started off with the Eastern energy medicine. We call it energy medicine. That's the Eastern. And then information medicine, which I'll talk about later, which doesn't cover any, it doesn't carry energy to create medicine. And spiritual medicine, we're going to define that more. Faith healing, an alternative. We're going to break all that down to. And then we're going to go into what we call the Western or scientific, physical, traditional, conventional, allopathic medicine. And it's also called complementary. There's complementary conventional. It means it supports it. You can put it, or you can integrate a different discipline to support the traditional type of physical medicine. And that is from the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. And that is from a division of the National Institute of Health, that's run by the government of America. Then we get into what they classify as punitive energy fields, and that can be measured with our current technology. So they call it fringe medicine or different types of names. Like they used to call it fraud medicine, irregular medicine. Now they're different because they're more embracing traditional medicine, are now recognizing that just because you can measure it by any scientific instrumentation, that there is still energy that exists within. So when we treat people, we look at the spiritual energy and then the physical energy, two different roads. So Eastern and Western. So the spiritual energy, which is energy, which we're going to go into depth in miasms when we go to our course. Energy medicine, it can be involved in energy therapy, energy healing, distant healing, broadcasting, what we call remote healing, the hands-on, hands-off type technique, polarity, biofield energy healing, contact healing, and he called many different things. So all these are different disciplines. Qi Do, therapeutic touch, like kinesiology, Reiki, Qi Kung, Chinese medicine, exercise, physical, psychic healing, esoteric healing, all kinds of magnetic healing, not a magnet therapy, panic healing, crystal healing using crystals and stones, intercessory prayer, chakras, that goes back over 100 years, and that's found in Ayurvedic medicine, auras, you can see auras through different kind of biofeedback equipment now, sacred geometry, salvaggio tones. The miasm, CRA, contact reflex analysis, is a form of kinesiology, and Shinzenzo. And the terms used are Qi, Prana, innate intelligence, Mana, Pneuma, vital fluids, Arctic for kinesiology, and Shinzenzo. And the terms used are Qi, Prana, innate intelligence, Mana, Pneuma, vital fluids, Arctic force, organ, polarity therapy, and vital force. And most of the points there is about 2 inches below the belly button. That is found. Then there's called punitive energy fields continued. And there's a new category called information healing energy. It's without the use of energy carriers, and that sometimes we call it from homeopathy. And they say, wow, you can produce something like energy from a word or a symbol or music or frequency, sound, pictures, waveforms, holograms, videos, patterns, and then it can all be put into now modern technology, biofeedback, and feed it back to the brain. So it emits frequency and waveforms into the computer, and biofeedback equipment feeds it back to the brain, which it picks up the information from the body through different electrodes. So the biofeedback devices out there is the quantum infinity, the EIS, electro-interstitial scan. Then there's faith healing. And I always thought that faith healing or prayer was part of the energy. And it is. It has a religious content. It's a prayer, belief, faith, love, God. And the God can be anything you believe in. You might believe in Buddha, and you might believe in other types of people, image of God, or universal God. But you have healing, and it's usually a traditional religious content. You have to talk about the mental and emotional areas. And that can be energy, psychology, or cognitive and behavior stress, things that stress that really cause emotional strife, either emotional, chemical, or personal, family, occupational, any kind of different stress that can change the behavior of emotional behavior. It can be EFT, it's emotional freedom techniques, some of the techniques they use to help reduce the stress. Top acupuncture for acupressure techniques. The CET, comprehensive emogenesis technique, is a more advanced level of the EFT. Placebo effect, negative energy clearance, silver method, and they used to call it silver mind control, transcendental meditation, eye movements desensitizing process. That's some of them, not all of them. And then we talk about the physical level. So we talked about the more spiritual energy level before. Now we're going, and that's related to a lot of Eastern philosophy. And now we're going to the Western. We call it allopathic. And allopathic, the word was founded by Samuel Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy. Traditions sometimes don't like to be called allopathic, substance, material, physical. Traditional, conventional, got to be scientific and form. Veritable energy fields that can be measured now with the instrumentation. Could be biofeedback or other devices there. The complementary, they can help work in support of the traditional methods or the practice, and they use together with conventional medicine. So it supports it. And they use natural products like vitamins, minerals, herbs, probiotics. And then there is also integrative, incorporating complementary approach to mainstream healthcare. And both of them together, they can actually affect the mind and body through these different disciplines. It can be yoga, chiropractor, osteopathic manipulation, and incidentally, chiropractor and osteopath before the 1970s was deemed as fraud. But now they establish now chiropractor and osteopathy as a legitimate practice profession. Meditation, massage therapy, relaxation, breathing, guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, Tai Chi, Qi Kung, healing touch, hypnotherapy, movement therapy, Feldenkrais, and that was found in England. Alexander techniques found in England, Pilates, Rolfing, structure integration, Traeger, psychophysical integration, spinal, could be through different types of massage or osteopathic or chiropractic manipulation. TENS, sound therapy or vibrational energy, visible light, could be lasers, monochrome radiation lasers, again, magnetic resonant imagery, laser eye correction surgery, cardiac pacemakers. All these have relationships to the mind and the body. So you fix one area, it also affects a different part of the area. So there's relationships. Remember I told you that each discipline has its own tendencies, a category of tendencies, and whatever it fits in there, it will actually help in that area. And then there's a certain time for everybody, because everybody is different. Pulse, magnetic, they're different characteristics. Everybody will heal differently, and some might not even heal like you want it. It might be in the wrong category or tendency. And then there's alternative. Alternative use, they take the place of conventional medicine. They try EAV, electroacupuncture by Vo. They do traditional healers, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture meridians, reflexology, naturopathy, auricular therapy, acupressure, and many more. So they call that alternative medicine. And then recent to 1970, the conventional medical practice criticized the alternatives as being fraud, irregular, French kind of medicine. But now they are now embracing it. Times have changed. Now, at this time, in 2003, there's over 50% of Americans are now opting to be treated with alternative and natural medicine. You have to balance. The whole problem thing is you got to balance the body. You got to balance versus unbalanced lifestyle. Remember I talked about the physical or traditional type of conventional medicine. Emotional, they treat that, but separately as a separate entity, as opposed to holistic, take care of all the components. So if you treat one, you might affect the balance of the other. Nutritious eating, optimal sleep, negative feeling, emotional, feeling of peace and gratitude about the past willingness. What is unbalanced, unhealed emotional wounds from the past? The mental is a positive outlook on life, looking thoughts, self and others. See the higher perspective, negative outlook on life, destructive thoughts about self. So when we talk about the mental, we go back to bioscience. That's how we connect the physical with the spiritual energy. Because the physical, as you know, has to do with neurology, physiology, everything. If you know the nerve pathways going to the brain and back to the site of the wound, you will notice that the brain is involved. They control the central nervous system. But there was also meridians going up to the head in parallel to some of the nerve pathways. And if one of them is blocked, it can affect the person's function, normal function of that part of the brain or part of the body. Because the brain will transmit signals called motor nerves and down to the side of the wound, and then the intensity of the pain will be affected, whether you get little pain or a lot of pain in your wound that you incurred. Or in the spiritual, a strong spiritual connection. Some people say, well, that's God. Well, yeah, in a way it's God because there's also faith healing in there. But the spiritual is spiritual energy, and you believe in it. Negative or no spiritual connection, lack of thinking. We want to get the next area, physical with the spiritual energy. Because the physical, as you know, has to do with neurology, physiology, everything. If you know the nerve pathways going to the brain and back to the site of the wound, you will notice that the brain is involved. They control the central nervous system. But there was also meridians going up to the head in parallel to some of the nerve pathways. And if one of them is blocked, it can affect the person's function, normal function of that part of the brain or part of the body. Because the brain will transmit signals called motor and down to the side of the wound, and then the intensity of the pain will be affected, whether you get little pain or a lot of pain in your wound that you incurred. Or in the spiritual, a strong spiritual connection. Some people say, well, that's God. Well, yeah, in a way it's God because there's also faith healing in there. But the spiritual is spiritual energy, and a lot of them cannot be measured. So there's really people who say, I don't believe in that because they can't see it, they can't hear it. Just like if you're praying to God, you can't see God, but you do have faith that He will help you. If you pray and believe it, negative or no spiritual connection, lack of thinking. And so today's holistic practice into combining the Eastern spiritual energy medicine, faith healing through religion. If you get some kind of where you believe in God, you pray, go to church, because the brain will transmit signals called motor nerves and down to the side of the wound. Informational medicine, and that's a new thing, and then picking up waveforms, neurotransmitters, different type of frequencies coming in and measuring from the brain, the left and right brain, and then transmitted from the person's body back to the brain, was interpreted in the computer as such, and using different scientific measurements that say range, if the frequency goes through this, and there's the range, but if it goes above that, that's really what we call in Chinese yang, too much energy, and it causes inflammation, and below the line is called degeneration, or yin. Below the line, degeneration, wisdom, Western medicine, allopathic, physical, traditional science. And he says the sugar will only be attempted at 7%. And when you combine all these together in different phases, you might not have everything knowledge with or be able to practice, but you have some that relates to the particular kind of relationship to the spirit or the spirit and physical energy. You can get that. And you combine that together and they are compatible because you are looking at every phase of the body, mind, body, and spirit. It becomes holistic medicine and dentistry because they have a relationship. And if one is like a cloud of stresses, of camouflaging the true cause of the problem, then the cause, and once you clear out or balance out the irregularity or regular energy of vibrational energy that's camouflaging the cause of the problem, they can address the cause by itself and concentrate on the cause and perhaps get a better chance of healing the area. We're going to start a series of holistic webinars, and then we're also making programs for people who want to learn and maybe even get certification. We'll announce it on our next program, and then also be able to practice that at home or in your practice. That will help you and learn all different modalities and how you can put it together into one system when you're looking for the cause of the problem rather than just treating the symptoms. I'm asking you for comments to give me, and any kind of criticism, or if you like it or don't like it, put it in your comments. And then you can Twitter me, or you can put it into a YouTube comments, or you can even put it into Facebook. You know, I encourage that because you get better with the comments.
Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to my segment of The Savvy Shopper. Today, I am going to share some of my shopping strategies for financial health.